Hi, if you want to watch exclusive content with hot girls that you won't watch on YouTube, namely where Naruto roasts Kushina and Mikoto and many other hot girls without restrictions, then visit my Boosty channel at the link in the description.
I wiped the blood from my palms again. I continue to give orders, sending people to their deaths. Those who have gone there will never return, but they cannot disobey me. And I, knowing that this is what must be done, merely try to memorize their faces. More names will soon appear on the cold stone in the hospital ward. The war has taken the lives of many. Some were killed in battle, others the medics could not save. Thus, my friends died in my arms. I heard their dying breaths, watched with glassy eyes as their hands fell, still holding the steel of the blade to the end. Embracing the lifeless body of the comrade, who only moments ago protected my back, I learned to see the world through different eyes. Once blue, they have taken on a gray tint, perhaps from old age, or perhaps from grief. But continuing to wipe the blood from the rough fabric of my cloak, I move forward, and behind me come those who will be faithful to the end. And let them consider me an egotist, a murderer, a cruel tyrant who sends people to their deaths. But I will only look into their eyes, eyes that know no pain. I will agree with everything. I will go to execution if they lead me, but I will defend my village, my country, and will not let blood be spilled in vain. The war taught me composure. I became a leader in the eyes of millions, whether commoners or shinobi. During those years of endless battles, everyone grew stronger, but it wasn't the strongest who survived. Only the luckiest could return from the scarlet field, covered in mud and the bodies of the dead. When I began to understand that only those who can turn around survive, I hated this world for the first time. Then my eyes turned black, and there was emptiness in them. I stopped crying at night over fresh corpses and, looking into their faces, dictated my sentence. But the time had come for the final battle. My army was gathering strength, but the enemy was a genius, right? But there's always a chance, right? Today, we were all marching to our deaths, and I stood at the head, looking into the enemy's scarlet eyes. A powerful enemy. The final enemy. A boy lay in a clearing covered in flowers of every hue. The wind ruffled his fair hair, which fell across his face. He winced, opening his blue eyes. They were very beautiful, but there was no longer any laughter in them. His gaze was cold, heavy, and calm, not at all childish. "Nah, are you, too?" as if tasting it. "That's what they used to call me." A slight smile, followed by a ringing laugh. "Yes, so." The boy's gaze once again reveals that mischievous twinkle that no one had seen in those eyes for 100 years, 100 long years of war. "Well, a new life has begun, hasn't it?" And the boy laughs again. I open my eyes in a clearing. Over the years, I've learned to appreciate beauty, and I can say for sure, it's truly beautiful here. Tall green grass, flowers, a gentle breeze, and sunshine. Understanding came slowly, but it did, and so did the memories. There was little pleasant in them, only the eternal battles and deaths that haunt me everywhere. I can't even remember the last time I enjoyed nature. I stood up, stretched my stiff limbs, getting used to it. A gray t-shirt and simple black pants. A flexible, slender body, but still too weak. That's easy to fix. I'm used to training, sometimes terrifying and backbreaking. But that would come later. Now I needed to figure out where I was, and find a place to spend the night, at least temporarily. I didn't have to walk long across the plain. After just a few dozen meters, a road appeared. Narrow, stone, and old, it led to the city walls. As I walked, I surveyed the landscape. All around were fields, a few scattered buildings, and somewhere in the distance, a wall loomed enormous and high, seemingly endless, stretching into the distance. It was a long walk, and channeling chakra into my feet, I began to run. But something was wrong, my chakra. I could barely feel it. It was terribly low, enough for only one clone. And that was very bad. I'd have to learn to survive without it. I stopped only at the city gates. Easily passing the guards, who paid me no attention, I walked deeper into the city. Smooth roads, white houses with tiled roofs, and lots of people. They walked the streets talking, buying things. Coming out into the market square, I began to think about getting some food. Passing by stalls selling a wide variety of food, I stopped at the very last small stall. No one was standing there, and the vendor was busily slicing something, his back to the goods. Slowly, without turning around, I approached him. The vendor didn't hear me, so much the better. Glancing back at the street and making sure no one was watching, I carefully snatched a piece of bread and walked away, leisurely. No, I wasn't a thief. I never thought I'd make a living like that, but life is strange, isn't it? I learned to survive back there, in the world where my withered body lies in the cold, damp earth. But there's no one left to mourn it, am I right? Yes, I'm always right. Trying to remain unnoticed and avoid causing panic on the street, I ran into an alleyway. I didn't have to run for long, but I was out of breath. This body is too weak. Carefully tucking the loaf of bread under my shirt, I stepped out into an alley filled with people. I didn't run, knowing I'd soon tire, but I tried to walk quickly. As I passed another alley, I bumped into a man. He was wearing a white uniform, belts, and a short jacket with an emblem I didn't recognize. The man staggered slightly, and I fell to the ground, dropping the bread, which immediately became covered in dust. "Watch where you're going!" The man's gaze is full of contempt. He's already raising his hand to strike. But his blue eyes stare straight ahead, frightening and mesmerizing at the same time. The soldier lowers the leg that was about to strike me and slowly backs away. "Demon!" The fearless soldier turns his back on me and stumbles away. Demon, yes, that's what they used to call me. I pick up the bread, put it in my bosom, and calmly move on. The body is too weak. I need to find a place to stay and start training. As I walk out the gate, I look back. But I continue on my way, away from this city. Finding a place to spend the night turned out to be very easy. An old abandoned house next to a wheat field. It was damp inside, and there was a small hole in the roof, but it was livable. I picked a few long ears of wheat and spread them out in a corner on the old wooden floor. Lying on my makeshift mat was hard, but I was used to it. I had no intention of staying there, just sitting down, taking out the loaf of bread I'd found and brushing crumbs off my t-shirt. There was little food and no water. I ate only half a small loaf, but my hunger had vanished. I knew it wouldn't last long. So, to distract myself, I decided to exercise, and the lack of food was just another test to see if I could shed the extra pounds my new body barely had. I buried the remaining bread in the hay and wrapped it in a t-shirt to keep the mice out. I walked outside in just my pants. The sun was high when I began my warm-up. After warming up, I decided to start my workout by strengthening my body, which meant running. While running, I tried to tune out the world, focusing only on the road ahead, so my body would tire more slowly. The realization that I needed a teacher came when, after running for about 2 hours, I was completely exhausted. Sure, such a run was long for a 6-year-old, but not for a shinobi, even a former one. And I'm not giving up my title. But where can I find a teacher? I'll think about that later, but for now, push-ups. I returned to my temporary shelter only when the sun was already setting. After nibbling on a piece of my small, modest supply, I laid down on the hay, covering myself with a t-shirt and a rag I found under the rubble of the roof. My morning began with rays of sun streaming through a hole in the roof. Getting up and putting on a t-shirt, I finished the rest of the loaf, trying not to leave a crumb. My body ached. Badly. Every muscle ached. But I got up anyway, heading off in search of a stream or even a puddle. It took a long run, but I eventually found a small lake with clean, clear water. After washing my face and clothes, I laid them out on the ground. Sitting down on the sand, I began doing sit-ups. I only finished my workout when my clothes were dry. I felt only a slight fatigue, but soon, even that disappeared. Fish were splashing in the pond. Catching them with such weak hands was impossible. A tree grew nearby, a young birch. Deftly climbing it, I snapped a thin, but straight and sturdy branch. The jump to the ground was painful. The height was great, and in mid-flight I didn't have time to tuck myself in, which caused me to hit my elbow and scrape my knee. I rinsed the scrape with water and tried not to think about it. It healed immediately. It seems regeneration hasn't abandoned me even here. With the remaining chakra I had, I tried using the chakra scalpel. My palm was enveloped in blue light, taking the shape of a thin blade. I used the scalpel to sharpen the end of the stick. Waiting for another fish to jump to the surface, I launched my spear at it. The sharp wooden end easily pierced the fish. After all, I'd been taught this since my days at the Academy for Assassins, called shinobi. The raw fish wasn't as disgusting as I thought. It was probably even tasty. Taking my stick with me, I ran toward the house. Running back was easier, and after lying on the dry hay for a while, I decided to head to town. I needed to learn more about this world and stock up on water and, if possible, provisions. I could hold out longer than an ordinary person, but I wasn't taking any risks. I didn't want to steal, so I found the first shop I saw and opened the thick wooden door. A bell rang softly, and the pleasant smell of freshly baked goods filled my nostrils. The elderly woman behind the counter glanced at me and went back to her work. There were no customers, and this small building with its piles of shelves was currently empty. I cautiously approached the old woman, who merely gave me another stern look. "What do you want?" It wasn't a question. She must have wanted to get rid of me as quickly as possible. "Do you have any work for me?" Her gaze softened for a moment. "For me? You have to clean the kitchen today, then I'll decide whether you're fit to work or not." She turned back to the counter, and my short stature prevented me from seeing what she was doing. "You'll find the rags in the corner." "That's all? Just need to wash the floors and clear the tables. I won't let you down. It's not in my nature to retreat." And the old woman just nodded without taking her eyes off him. Cleaning, so cleaning. That's also a workout, right? Although the building itself was small, the kitchen was large, not enormous. And no one, not a soul. The entire kitchen was littered with various trash, but I didn't see a single person. Cleaning took me a long time, and I finished just as the sun was setting behind the high walls. The kitchen sparkled, and the air smelled of dry laundry detergent and foam. The landlady approved of my work and agreed to let me come to her in the evenings to clean, promising to give me 1 gold piece a week. Not knowing how much that would be, I agreed. Returning, I watched the people leaving for the evening. I noted the prices at which various goods could be purchased. Yes, 1 gold coin wasn't enough to live on, but it was enough to survive. Seizing the moment, I managed to snatch a small piece of meat from under the vendor's nose. It was luck. He didn't notice. I reached my modest abode fairly quickly. I picked a new stack of hay and spread it on the floor, having first thrown out the old, dried out and prickly wheat. I laid my t-shirt on top of it. It was a warm night. I wouldn't freeze, and it was more comfortable to lie down this way. I bit off a decent chunk of the meat I'd caught and placed it under my head, having wrapped it in wheat ears. Sleep eluded me for a long time, thoughts of a new world lingering in my mind. I remember the last idea that flashed through my tired head before I fell asleep was the decision to build a food storage facility. I woke early, even though the sun was hidden by clouds and didn't disturb my sleep. After stretching my stiff bones and body, I pulled on a t-shirt and, finishing the last of the meat, went outside. The air was fresh and the breathing was easy. Taking one last deep breath, I ran toward the lake. The owner of the shop where I worked that evening turned out to be a kind but reserved woman. Believing the story of the poor orphan boy, she told me a lot about this world. Without asking me to give her name, she didn't tell me hers. She spoke of the rose wall, near which I awoke. She told me of the titans from whom the 3 walls protect us. And humans truly are cowards. They fear the inevitable. The walls will collapse, and with them the hopes of humanity. By the end of my first week in the new world, I had earned 1 gold piece by working honestly as a cleaner. You can't buy anything with gold, can you? I had to infiltrate underground communities, which turned out to be easy. I cast a weak genjutsu, which my chakra allowed, on a bartender in a pub filled with the smell of alcohol and tobacco, and I learned a great deal. This knowledge was enough to gain their trust, and I had a fair amount of experience in dealing with such people. You could buy anything you wanted on the black market, and most importantly for your people, practically for free. And with that gold coin, I bought new knee-length shorts made of durable black fabric and a small folding knife. I couldn't afford more. But I'm here for a long time. I'll have time for everything. Even in the first few days, I realized that there were people I should avoid. I simply tried not to look at the rest. After all, ordinary people are just cattle, afraid to soil their hides. The soldiers are trained cowards, dangerous for a 6-year-old boy, hiding behind 3 walls. The guards guarding the wall are mostly drunks, who weren't among the top 10 in their graduating class. The reconnaissance detachment, I couldn't find any information about them anywhere. Everyone said they were just Titan fodder, so I silently walked away. Ignoring the local inhabitants, I tried to save my own skin, and that sometimes meant killing. But I'm used to it, so I became a thief killer, and the soldiers caught me, or rather, tried to catch me. I had plenty of time to train my body, and I'd learned not to waste it in vain during the war, where I was appointed commander. I continued to work part-time for that dark-haired old woman at the bakery. Over time, she began assigning me tasks that she considered more challenging, and the amount I left her with grew accordingly each week. After a month, my savings amounted to 10 gold coins and a few parcels of provisions, simple bread, and, if I was lucky, meat. It was rare to find anything fresh or tasty. Never. I stored all my belongings in a carefully dug hole, lined with planks, behind the barn that served as my roof and home. The owner taught me how to sew and embroider, and now my shorts had about 4 pockets and 5 hidden compartments, where I kept knives I'd managed to buy on the black market and things I'd stolen. She knew what I did but didn't tell the police, and after a while, she even gave me a price for certain items I'd find from passers-by. Making money became easier. In the underground world, I became a famous figure. No one knew my face or age. But I carried out the assassination or theft orders my friends sometimes sent me to perfection. I ripped open my old pants and stuffed the sewn-together pieces of fabric with sand. I created something like weights that I hung on my legs and arms, wearing them constantly, gradually replacing the sand with small stones. My training continued. It was only a few months, but the constant training and hunger had taken their toll. I could no longer be called weak. Today marks exactly 6 months since I arrived here. The streets were empty as I returned from the bakery that evening. Scruffing my bare feet on the ground, I glanced around at the buildings. Nothing had changed. The same rows of stalls in the main square, the same people sitting in their homes at this hour, afraid to move. And yet, I needed a rush of adrenaline, just a little bit, to prove to myself that I was different from those who resembled a flock of sheep. The vendor, still standing at his counter, was hastily collecting produce, juicy pieces of meat hanging on a thin line. Fresh bread and apples, a very rare fruit in this city, renowned for its taste and aroma. I'd be well paid for it. Quietly, like a mouse, I crept up to the counter. The street was empty, and the vendor, absorbed in his work, didn't notice me. Simply wonderful. My hand carefully reaches for the juicy scarlet fruit. Just a little more, and I'm already snatching it up, dodging the hands of the vendor who noticed the loss, and running away. Laughing, I run into the gateway. After training, running is easy and simple, without getting out of breath. I stop and rest my hand on the cold stone of the wall. Yes, this sweet fruit was worth it. Help! A quiet whisper, please. The child's voice becomes fainter and fainter. My hearing is excellent. and the alien voice fades. I turn and walk toward them. I walk calmly down several streets, turning into various alleys, and emerge into a spacious but empty square. A naked girl lies huddled against the wall on the cold ground, a thin trickle of red liquid running down her leg. For a few seconds, I stood there, staring at the poor, huddled bundle. But as my consciousness cleared, understanding came, and I ran up to her. She must be about 8 years old, only a couple of years older than my body. Picking her up and wrapping her in a t-shirt, I carried her out of the city toward my home. She's very light, and I run as fast as I can. The weights are now more in the way than ever, but there's no time to take them off. I carefully lay her cold body on the fresh hay, put my t-shirt on her, covering her with the rags I managed to scrounge from the bakery. Only now can I get a good look at her. I wash away the blood with water, trying not to hurt her. She's small, about my height, but clearly a year or two older. Her body is thin, skinny, with prominent bones. She's starving. Her light hair is tangled and unwashed. She was shivering. I tried to wrap her more tightly in the wheat ears. She stopped shivering, but she was still barely breathing. I lay down on the floor. It was cold without a t-shirt, but sleepable. I woke up to a scream. The girl I'd brought home yesterday was looking around worriedly, but there was only fear in her eyes. "Where?" I stood up and brought the cup of water to her mouth. She drank it all. "Where am I? Who are you?" "I'm Naruto. And you're at my house now. What's your name? And what happened to you?" I'm Petra. I remember wanting to steal a piece of bread from the vendor. And other than that, nothing." Tears streamed down her face, and I didn't know how to calm people down. "My brother, he died outside the wall on one of the reconnaissance squad's missions, and without him, we have no way to make a living. The family is poor. We have to steal to keep from starving. They'll kill me, yes." She didn't ask. It was a statement. I patted her on the head and smiled, then handed her the red apple I'd gotten today. She took it with trembling hands and tried to force something resembling a smile. "I will help you." And again, a radiant smile appeared on my face. "I can protect you." And in the eyes of the girl, who was several years older than me, a spark of hope appeared. To feed Petra, who still couldn't walk or sit, I had to work harder. I began accepting more assassination orders. They always paid well. Soon, I was able to buy her a blanket made of thick fabric. Petra recovered quickly and could soon walk normally, but sitting still hurt. She didn't know how I made my living. I only told her that I stole from stalls in the market square, which was partly true. But life is more important than clean hands, and conscience became silent after the 10th. I never considered how I would live my life. I had no intention of joining the academy to create Titan fodder. I didn't want to stay with my friends, even though they brought me new orders that brought me good money. I continued to train my body, gradually beginning to train my vision and hearing, which I remembered from obtaining the Rinnegan, which I now lacked the chakra for. Having no idea how the training was progressing externally, I felt only the strength and health of my body. But Petra always blushed when, after yet another training session, I returned again without my coat. My training must not have been in vain. But time passed, and Petra had already fully recovered. "I want to join the scouting squad." These words turned my life upside down. She'll die, after all. She won't live even a week. I believe her, but I don't believe in her. Although, maybe something will come of her. It's not for me to decide, and it's not for her either. "Will you let me go?" Why is she asking? Has she really grown attached to me in the few weeks we've lived together? "I have no right to refuse you. Go ahead if you want. But be careful." "Yes, I've gotten used to her, but nothing more. I'll stand up for her if she's hurt, but I won't sacrifice my life for her." And she left. One day, saying goodbye and grabbing a warm wool blanket, she left my small house. And I, waving after her, threw off my new black t-shirt and ran. I ran again, until I was exhausted. Despite the fatigue, I'll start doing push-ups again, and then I'll go home. After all, I'm used to it. A boy ran down the street of a small town. His feet sank in the mud, and cold rain fell on his head. His disheveled and tangled hair stuck to his face, obscuring his vision and making it difficult to see the way. For the first time, fear flickered in his blue eyes. For the first and last time, he could allow himself to show his feelings. Not for his own skin, mired in blood, but for the soul of the one who hadn't driven him away when others despised him. People are pitiful. They fear what is inevitable and fear what is unknown. I was caught today. Today I was threatened for the first time. And today I'm swinging open the oak door for the first time. But the familiar smell of freshly baked goods didn't hit my nose. Today, time stood still for a moment. My legs are wobbly, but I'm strong. I can handle it. I carefully open the partition separating the room from the kitchen. I reach out, but my hand is shaking. Today, for the first time, my vision darkened. I slip in a pool of blood. It's fresh, but not mine today. My scarlet world has turned gray. My hands are still shaking, but I sit down next to the lifeless body anyway. A through and through wound in the stomach, jagged edges. No one could survive that. And I was the only one who could understand her, the only one who could find the fabric she'd been asking for so long. I wanted to give it to her, but I didn't have time. What a shame. A rough man's hand fell on the boy's trembling shoulder. We finally found you. The soldier grins. It was difficult, but we got help. So they betrayed me. The boy's voice was calm. And where am I headed? The old bakery owner died in his arms. His last loved one. Now pray. The chains clanked. That your head will end up under the chopping block. And the boy only smiled. His plans fell apart today, but he's not giving up, is he? Conclusion, then execution. These words weren't unexpected, rather long-awaited. But they still made me shudder. It must be because my body couldn't withstand the strain. The trial is over. This wasn't a trial, just a prelude to maintain the necessary authority. But I don't need more, just let me rest. I can't lift my eyelids, but even so, I feel the darkness and cold of the room. I'm only wearing old shorts. It's a shame about the knives, they cost me dearly. Without opening my eyes, I tried to move my hand, but only the clanking of chains and a dull ache filled my ears. Shackles on my hands and feet. Such attention to a 7-year-old boy flatters me. But they could have been gentler, although, what am I saying? Here, the weak are treated worse than animals. The darkness hurts my eyes, but gradually my vision cleared. A dark room, a solitary cell with a bunk and a hard mattress, brick walls, and the brick is old, crumbling and white, once white. The heavy chains cut unpleasantly into my skin, but it seemed no one was going to remove them. People appeared behind the bars that served as part of the wall, and the bright light of a torch hit my face. There were many of them. They were shouting something. Some pointed at me with their hands, proving something to each other. But I couldn't understand a word. Keys jingled. The door to my cell swung open. They entered, one by one, standing in a semicircle around me. They were smiling. Scary. One of them raised his hand with a stone and threw it at me. The stone hit me in the shoulder. It wasn't painful, but unpleasant. Another grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and threw me off the mattress onto the floor. They held me down, twisting my arms. The first blow hit my liver, then my solar plexus. The hands holding me tightly prevented me from doubling over in pain. One of them leaned over, tilting his head to the side, exposing his neck. In vain. I sank my teeth into his throat. He screamed. They tried to pull me away from him, but I only clenched my jaws tighter. The first drops of blood fell into my mouth, tasting slightly salty and metallic. I clenched my teeth harder, tearing away flesh. He fell to the stone floor, writhing in pain and hissing, occasionally breaking into a scream. I bared my teeth, red streams still flowing from my mouth, But it wasn't my blood. The alien hands let go of my body for a second, and I took advantage of that, biting the arm of the soldier standing closest to me. Biting through a layer of skin, I reached the bone. Human beings are so fragile, they say their skin can be torn with bare hands. Having released my victim, I spat out blood, attempting to attack the next one, but they again pinned me down, preventing me from moving. They continued to beat me, and the blows grew stronger. My bones were cracked in several places, some already broken. I didn't know how much time passed before they left me on the floor, beaten and covered in a layer of fresh blood. The bones and wounds healed very quickly, and the bruises faded almost immediately. A couple of hours later, I was sitting on a mattress on the cot, stretching my limbs, swollen from lying in one place for so long. The first time I let someone hit me. In this world, I felt physical pain for the first time. I'd forgotten what it felt like to fall, exhausted, to the ground, covered in mud mixed with the blood of enemies, and strewn with the bodies of others. But it's been so long since I've thought about my world. That war was too long, or maybe I just have no one left to remember. Everyone I knew died then, one after another. They fell at my feet, writhing in their death throes. The first to die was Sakura, the hot-tempered and sometimes funny, but extremely serious girl. Then Kiba, the guy who always pestered me and was madly in love with dogs. Then Hinata, my last and probably my deepest love. Then Shikamaru, Ino, Neji, Lee, Tenten, and even Sasuke, my betrayer, but such a dear friend. The marble monument in the square of the once great village was constantly filled with new names. And yet, they must have erected a monument for me, probably in stone, or perhaps in gold. A hero of my village. A hero of my country. But someone ran a hand along the iron bars of the cell. The door opened for a second, and a tin bowl containing a portion of bread fell to the floor, with a mug of water next to it. Not much more than I could have stolen, but it was livable. The man in the soldier's uniform stayed with me, leaning his back against the bars. He didn't care that there were marks of beatings and pools of blood on the cell floor, and he had no intention of helping me, so all the better. I wasn't taken outside like the other prisoners, considered too aggressive and dangerous. I spent entire days in my cell, occasionally attempting to escape, but that only resulted in another beating. Later, they began taking me to the lower floors, underground. There, I had to work. Nothing complicated, but not for a 7-year-old. It seemed they decided to get rid of me in a less humane way than the gallows or the scaffold. Sunlight didn't penetrate here, and only dim torches illuminated the dungeon that served as the prison's lower levels. Dust caught his eyes, making it difficult to navigate the dimly lit space. His hand was raised behind his back, the cold steel striking the stone, causing a shower of sparks. The pickaxe fell near the red stone, lightly grazing it. The sharp sound of the blow cut through the silence. The whip fell on the boy's back, tearing flesh and leaving a fresh trail of blood against the white scars. He didn't care who he hit, because he would be paid for it. "You scratched such an expensive stone." His voice was squeaky and unpleasant. "I'll leave you without lunch." He always threatens, but lunch isn't the main thing here. "Get to work. 3 more rubies like that. The main thing is to survive, and food will be a rat pinned to a stone. But my back hurts." A sob echoed nearby. A boy, probably just like me, recently transferred here. He was crying. Tears are a sign of weakness. You have to understand that. You have to accept that. And I never cried. There must have been nowhere for the tears to come from. They weren't given enough water. The bell rings. The clanging of the sledgehammer ceases, and I lower my pick. Lunch, I won't get it today, but maybe I'll get lucky and some hyena will snatch me a crust of bread. The hyenas are the local scavengers. They always have it easy. They made a deal with the soldiers for their own gain, and now they're ingratiating themselves with the prisoners. They often try to placate me with food. They tried to get me to talk more than once, but soon realized it was futile. And again, a young girl sits down next to me on the cold stone, well-dressed, with a smile on her face, sickly sweet and false. She holds out her hand to me, revealing a juicy piece of meat, pork, the kind the prisoners don't get. She's new, they're given what they don't refuse, and with those who've fallen into your trap, accepting a handout from your hand is always easier to start a conversation. And perhaps, just for a second, a flicker of interest flickered in my eyes. She noticed she had experience. She must have worked in the torture chamber before. Hyenas often leave there in search of easier work. I glanced at her one last time and turned away, taking the uneven surface of the handle in my hands again. Swinging it, the pickaxe fell onto the gray stone. But her small hand landed on my shoulder. She touched me. I was overwhelmed with anger, hatred, at her and at those who had imprisoned me here. I abruptly threw her hand off my shoulder, turned around and looked at her with disdain. People like her didn't dare touch me. The girl recoiled and stumbled, falling onto the sharp stones, hitting her head. A thin trickle of blood ran down her temple. She didn't move, and a piece of pork fell to the dusty ground. The prisoners surrounded us. It would be to their advantage if they captured me now. There would be more food. One of them, screaming, rushed towards the meat. They all pushed past each other, making their way to the coveted piece intended for me. A skinny boy was the first to grab the sinewy meat, shouting something cheerfully as he raised the food to his mouth. He bit off a piece, chewing slowly, tasting it. He climbed onto one of the highest rocks, stuffed the rest into his mouth, and quickly swallowed. The prisoners were distracted by the boy who had snatched the food from under their noses. I, meanwhile, leisurely retreated to the far corner. I didn't need any trouble. I didn't have long left here. The soldiers were impatiently awaiting their appointed time, and I had no intention of hastening the inevitable. Again, I raised my hand to strike, but a boy slightly taller than me caught my arm. "Thank you." He smiles at me. "Why did they put him here? If it weren't for you, I probably would have died of hunger." He looked away. "Yes, this meat was meant for me, but once the hyena is dead, there's always someone else to pick up its kill." I turn away, not intending to continue this pointless conversation. "I still have 3 rubies on me. I have to work. Can't he understand that I want him to go away? I can introduce you to someone," he whispered, smiling carefree, and there was a twinkle in his eye. "Go on. Is there really anyone here who could interest me?" I smirk, looking at his face, which suddenly becomes serious. "The hyena they sent after you is dead. You don't think they'll let you get away with this, do you?" His smile widens, but there's no joy in it anymore. It's forced and fake. "I'll recommend you to some people, and for a fee, they'll cover for you." I'm not interested. I turn my back to him and wait for his reaction. "What's in store for you if you refuse?" He's surprised. "They'll kill you." A hyena's death has never been forgiven. They're the soldier's favorite. He takes a step back, a small one, but a step nonetheless. He's starting to fear me. My sentence is execution. I look calmly into his eyes, and they reflect horror. I was expecting this. "You? What?" he whispered, as if delirious. "What? What kind of monster are you? Death is the punishment for the disobedient and the murderers. The death sentence is the most terrible thing in this prison." You say it so calmly. Prison. I considered my temporary residence. A cage, a penal servitude, whatever, but I never called it a prison. Prison is a cage where they keep especially dangerous criminals, but I'm not dangerous. I'm not aggressive unless I provoke someone. I don't attack without reason. Then why? 6 months. 6 months in a cage called prison. And yet my conscience is clear, but my hands are stained with blood. My name won't tell you anything, and knowing me by sight, not many can boast of that. He takes another step back, clenches his fists, and tries to say something. I'll give you a hint, none of them survived. I approach him and whisper in his ear. "Now run." I press a sharpened pick to his throat. The boy ran away from me, screaming and crying. He was one of them, after all, a jackal, sent by the soldiers. Another hyena had snuck close to me. But I liked it. It was funny to see the fear in his eyes. The boy managed to amuse me. I sent him a sincere smile, but he didn't see it. I still have 3 rubies on me, work awaits. And again, I swing the pickaxe, the steel striking the stone. I'm led down dark corridors, my hands clasped behind my back, the handcuffs chafing my wrists. 2 guards are behind me, and 1 ahead. Today is exactly a year. A year has passed since I arrived here, and today, it's time to carry out my sentence. I'll be transferred to another cell, and in the evening, I'm heading for the scaffold. But I've never given up, and I don't plan on it today. Losing my head a second time, they want too much, they thirst for a spectacle, and they'll get it today. The bright light hurts my eyes, I can't lift my head, a thick rope squeezes my throat. There are no screams or joyful shouts. They decided to execute me, quietly, so no one will know. A hand presses on my neck. The ropes fall to the ground. It's time. How long have I waited for this? A second later, I'm squeezing the other man's wrist with my small hand, the bone cracking. I've been practicing for so long to get a strong grip. The executioner howled and released me. My eyes finally adjusted to the bright light. I leap over the block and run down the steps of the scaffold. There are few soldiers, only 3. Over the past year, they've begun to seriously underestimate me. I easily dodge the first blow. I fly under the feet of the second soldier. I leap on the neck of the third, twisting his neck with a flick of my wrist. There's a crunch, and he falls to the ground, his limbs twisted unnaturally. I run while they're not looking. And freedom is good. I haven't had this much fun in a long time. The adrenaline is coursing through my veins again, and I'm running through these narrow streets again. People look at me strangely, but I don't care. But I'm banned from this city. I can't return. I've escaped. Now I need money and food, preferably shelter for a while. At the next turn, I bump into a passerby. I quickly get up and extend my hand, offering to help. Go away! Go away, you little thief! He pushes me away, and I fall back into the mud. The man walks away without looking back, and I sit and watch him go. Indeed, now I resemble nothing more than a little street thief. Torn t-shirt, striped shorts, everything is now covered in mud, and it's his fault. I get to my feet and follow him. He doesn't turn around. A little boy can't do anything to him. Such thoughts have always led my opponents to their deaths. But killing this arrogant, self-righteous man is pointless. They're already looking for me. I have to hurry. I run past him, carefully and discreetly reaching into his pocket. A few crumpled bills, that's enough for a while. I run away, sending him a happy smile, and he shouts something after me. Winners are not judged, and I'm ahead. The dilapidated barn that had served as my home in this world still stood in the middle of a wheat field. It was leaning, the door was missing, and the hole in the roof had grown larger. But that didn't bother me much. Finding a mound of earth hidden by leaves, I began digging. I had nothing, so I had to dig with my bare hands. The sticks I'd lined the inside of my storage unit with had rotted, the bread had gone moldy, the meat had spoiled, but the money remained. About 50 gold pieces, and what I'd found in that passerby's pocket would keep me going for several weeks without depriving myself of anything. I couldn't go into the city. I'd have to find another place to live in a remote village, preferably in the farthest reaches of the Rose Wall. I walked slowly along the dusty road, gold coins jingling in the pocket of my new shorts. The sun shines here year-round, and even in winter, I could walk around in a light t-shirt. The new blades of my folding knives, the first thing I bought with the stolen money, glimmered in the sun in my hands. I didn't know what year it was, or what date it was. I'd lost track of time. It was always dark in the prison. But this knowledge wouldn't do me any good. Sometimes it's good to be ignorant. Revenge is a terrible thing. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Revenge always begets revenge in return. Revenge is sweet to those who desire it, but one must know how to take revenge properly. I knew where I was going. I knew what I had to do. Those who betrayed me cannot live, and I will help them with this. The leaders of the mafia gangs often gathered together. Some trafficked people, some animals, some distributed drugs, others illegally sold weapons. 12 bosses met together, always at the same time, always in the same place. They were dishonest and disrespectful of the law, but they had money, and the palace police were ineffective. 2 years ago, a boy infiltrated their ranks. An ordinary 6-year-old boy, but he learned of their activities, and although he kept their secrets and mysteries, no one was going to let him live. The risk of discovery was too great. The boy did all the dirty work, staining his childish hands with someone else's blood, but soldiers were searching for him. A unanimous decision was made by 11 of the 12 bosses: betrayal and elimination. Children are cruel. They often don't understand what they're doing. One by one, the great crime bosses fell to the ground. Children don't think about the consequences. They don't care. They are only interested in their own whims. 11 bodies lay on the floor of the basement beneath the courthouse. An odd gathering place, but they had chosen it. But he's not a child anymore. He understands and accepts his actions. He's responsible for them. Today is another meeting, but only one person is present, and opposite him sits a little boy. Why were you against? I lowered my head. My death was beneficial to you. I'm not interested. The other man doesn't look at me. I'm interested in you. He finally looked at me. Alive and relatively healthy. Go on. This conversation is starting to seem more and more interesting to me. Why do you need me? And what do you want from me? You and I are equals now. He must have found it difficult to say these words to a child several times his age. I'm not going to attack. You can put your knives away. He nodded mockingly towards several folding knives on the table under my hand. I heard you need a mentor. My interlocutor smiled. He knew a lot about me. A lot, but not everything. Let's say, I still didn't put my knives away. I just moved them to the edge of the round, varnished table. I really do need a teacher. Fight? He picks at the smooth surface of the table with a short nail. With whom? Have you decided to join the police? The man at the other end of the round table laughed hysterically. Or will you join the guards? Or maybe a reconnaissance squad? Will you become another Titan's meal? It's none of your business. My wishes don't concern you in any way. Her hands unconsciously reach for the knives. I agree to become your teacher. He smiles again. For personal reasons. Okay, you will become my teacher for 2 years. I know he will not refuse. My future fate should not interest you. Huh. All right, Prima. He grinned, remembering the name under which I first appeared before the face of 12. 2 years, then you're leaving. The boss of one of the most notorious criminal groups extends his hand to me, which I immediately shake. I think we've reached an agreement. Now, goodbye. You can choose the meeting place yourself. I have some business to finish. Taking the knives, I leave, waving goodbye. Mortem, I hear behind me. Naruto, Naruto Prima, I answer into the darkness. You've always carried out assassination or information gathering missions, always perfect, always alone. You chose a fitting name, but you couldn't achieve much. The man smirked. He knows how dangerous his interlocutor is, and he knows his age, trying to anger him, because all children are quick-tempered. I am here so that you can help me fix this. You wanted to teach me. You want to keep your word. Okay, I don't regret my choice. I'll wait for you. See you later, Prima. A man has no right to stand up first, so he waits until his little companion leaves the room. Damn boy. The teacher was rich, very rich. He housed me in his mansion in the center of the city, within the walls of China. The room was luxurious, with mahogany furniture, a carved bed, gilded mirrors, a golden chandelier, a large wardrobe, and a truly enormous window overlooking the street. But I only visited the room once. After giving me a tent and a backpack, the teacher led me into the forest, telling me I had to survive. He took all my knives, leaving only one, my most precious and beloved. I stopped in a small clearing deep in the forest. The sun was shining on the clearing, but it was surrounded on all sides by tall trees. Pitching my marsh green tent on the fresh grass, I set out to find a stream or river. My backpack contained an empty canteen, which I filled with water from a clear lake I had found along the way. I also washed my shorts and t-shirt in it. Mortem hadn't given me a boot, but I'm used to it. Barefoot is more comfortable. In a hidden compartment of my go bag, I found a change of clothes, a loose t-shirt and dark green shorts. Not exactly appropriate clothing for a walk in the forest, but I had no other options. Laying my wet clothes out on the sand, I began to watch the rare fish that occasionally leaped out of the water. I pulled a knife from my backpack pocket and prepared myself. A small silver fish emerged from beneath the water, and in a flash, a sharp knife had pinned it to a tree. I returned to the camp in the clearing, just as the sun had already set. A fish tied with fishing line was slung over my shoulder, and a backpack with a change of clothes neatly folded inside was on my back. Having cleared a small patch of clearing of branches and grass, I laid out the branches I gathered earlier. My goal now was a fire, and later food, which would be made from the fish I caught in the lake. Suitable stones were quickly found, and soon I was sitting on my backpack next to a pile of brushwood. A few stone-on-stone strikes and a spark fell on the dry wood, igniting the fire almost instantly. The night was warm, and the fire felt pleasantly warm on my dark skin. I slept under the open sky, my backpack under my head, and a now dry t-shirt over me. The Uzumaki clan has always been renowned for its resilience, which has served me well many times. But now I can no longer bear such a dear family name. Here I am prima, always first, always right. I marked the days on a moss-covered piece of wood. Fresh scars appeared on the uneven surface. The weeks flew by, and I moved from place to place, trying to avoid encounters with the forest's inhabitants, which wasn't always successful. Dealing with a wild fox was easy, but wolves attacked in packs, and I often had to flee from them. Surviving in a forest full of wild animals without food or water wasn't easy, but I managed. By the time my teacher woke me early in the morning, I'd lost track of time, and the moss-covered piece of wood, covered in old incisors, was gone. A month! You've been in the forest for a month, and now I can begin training you. Mortem raised the carved cup to his lips. I was beginning to fear you changed your mind. Steam rose from the dark liquid in the white cup. The tea sat untouched on the table. It's time for the next workout. The man set the cup aside, slightly scratching the surface of the table. Your body. I won't teach you how to kill titans. I'll teach you how to fight more cruel creatures, humans. The teacher stood with his back to me, looking at the sun setting behind the wall. Yes, I understand. I nodded in response. This is exactly what I need from him. The foundation is fist fighting. Even the simplest things at first glance contain profound meaning, and everything brilliant is simple. He looks down at me, turning his head over his shoulder. In combat, you use kicks, punches, grappling techniques, and throws. Every movement, no matter how simple, must be perfect and honed to the point of automaticity. You must be fast. Even with a well-trained and relatively strong body, you will lose to a larger opponent. I'm sitting on the bare ground, my head raised to the sky. Blue, like my eyes once were. I wonder what color they are now. At a distance, use your fists and feet. Up close, use your knees and elbows. And up close, use a grappling hook. Strike the enemy's pressure points. Try to incapacitate them. Don't try to be humane, be brutal. He turned his whole body toward me and offered me his hand. Move quickly, dodge, and strike. Without thinking, I put my hand into his palm. I'll teach you one lesson. He smiled slyly, his eyes narrowing slightly. Never. The teacher tugged my hand sharply, forcing me to stand and lean forward. Trust no one. With a swift motion, he struck me in the solar plexus with his open palm. I pulled my hand away and stepped back, pressing my palm to my chest. My vision was blurry and double, and a thin stream of blood mixed with saliva was flowing from my mouth. Theory's over. Time for practice. Attack! Mortem beckoned. Come on! The war has hardened my character. I have become more reserved and collected, but my patience is not endless. You asked for it, old man. I spat out blood. I'm attacking. One after another, the blows rained down on the boy's body. You're not focused enough yet. You lack fluidity. You need to be more gentle. Pain clouded his vision, but the teacher didn't stop. Revel in the battle. Shut up, old man. Just keep going. I can beat you. The outlines blurred, and the world went dark. I won't lose. Today you were able to defeat me. Congratulations. I don't need your praise. The boy lay on the ground, arms outstretched. I don't need pity. Let's continue training. You meant a beating? The dark-haired man didn't believe in his student's strength, and one victory wouldn't convince him otherwise. You should know how to handle a bladed weapon. Running his hand through his long hair, the man handed the fair-haired boy a katana. Even in this day and age, you can get your hands on some good toys, if you have connections, of course. This is my gift to you. For 11 months, he was turning me into a fighter without emotions or desires, and now he's given me such a generous gift. I can't believe it. What's the catch? I don't even look in his direction, holding a beautiful weapon of perfectly sharpened steel in my hands. Learn to use it and defeat me. I give you a month. But I won't need a whole month. In the 46th year of the war, the samurai abandoned the alliance, leaving behind a parting gift. Experience and skill. 2 weeks. I'll do it in 2 weeks, and you'll grant me one wish. I'm confident in myself and my experience, and my body is adapting. The teacher laughs at me again, but I have no reason to prove anything to him. He will understand everything himself. If you defeat me in 14 days, I will personally place you in any unit in a position that exceeds the duties of a simple private. I'll be special, right? Again. Agreed. I extend my open palm to him in a friendly gesture. He merely looks away dismissively, but shakes my hand. Don't bother me for 10 days, then we can begin. A stupid teacher does not believe in his student. A gentle wave of the hand, the blade gleaming in the sun. Beautiful. The steel cuts through the air, cutting off a strand of dark hair shimmering with violet. It slowly falls to the ground. The enemy's katana lies on the ground. The teacher will not accept defeat. But he has no chance. He certainly never had one. You lost. My voice will never be arrogant, but now I'm proud of myself and can afford to irritate the teacher. After all, I never addressed him as you. I didn't treat him with respect, and neither he nor I needed that. I accept defeat. I didn't expect it. I thought he wouldn't give in. It had all been too easy. As I promised, I'll make arrangements with the captain. They'll be happy to accept you into the reconnaissance squad. You wouldn't want to join the police, would you? And desire. Age doesn't matter. I'm a child now. I can do anything. And the desire. He must be upset. And he is also angry. Very, very angry. Then let's go! We have to get to the nearest town before evening, and from there beyond the wall. I smile and run forward. The katana feels like a pleasant weight on my shoulders. The teacher is gone for a long time. Out of boredom, I swing my legs dangling from the bed. Boring. The lock clicks, the door opens. I try to cope with the desire to jump up from the dark blanket on the single wooden bed and throw myself at the feet of the teacher who entered, asking for the commander's permission to join the squad, but pride does not allow it. I just pretend to be detached. This news does not really interest me. They've agreed, but you're still too young. They won't be any use for you. You'll join them after your first year at the academy. After completing your training with me, of course. 2 years, huh? 2 more years. Okay, I agree. I'm even glad about this. A ribbon, black and silky, hangs before my eyes. The silence is unnerving, but the pleasant weight of my beloved katana on my back calms me a little. The teacher holds my hand, and I try to keep up, moving my legs, sometimes breaking into a run. 2 years of training have come to an end. It's time for the final training session. Mortem paused, shrugged, and released my hand. If you can survive the final task, I'll enroll you among the students with special rights. He never said what special rights meant, but he made it clear right away that I would be the only one. Special. I'm ready, old man. You can begin. The black starched ribbon fell to the ground. What does this mean, old man? I tried to speak calmly, not to betray the anger that was gradually turning into cold rage. What are you talking about, stupid student? He smirks, knowing I didn't expect this and I can't. I thought you could handle anything. Snake. I refuse. I take one last look at the children huddled against the trunk of an old tree. A boy and a girl. Torn clothes, a hunted look, and terror in their eyes. They know why they're here. And I know. I don't think so. This is your mission. Don't think I'll just let you go. If you leave, I'll hand you over to the soldiers. You won't make me do this, and you know it. I offer my hand to the children, who are shaking with fear. No matter how much blood there is at my feet, my hand will never rise against a defenseless child. You're 1 foot on the gallows, and your hand is still shaking? He was ready to hand me over to the soldiers the first time we met, but he didn't want to. And he won't hand me over now. I won't kill a child. I take the child's hand in mine and turn my back to the teacher. Well done. Captain Irwin will be waiting for you at the exit from the forest. He'll take you to the students' barracks. He doesn't let me ask a question and leaves, waving goodbye. The unasked question was answered as soon as I took my first step across the dry, tall grass in the field. A carriage was waiting for me and 2 children. Irwin himself, the great commander, offered me his hand, helping me up the high steps. The carriage stopped at the castle walls, huge and stone, like in the books I'd read in my world. I jumped to the ground, raising a small cloud of dust, followed by my captain descending the steps. The children had been taken away in the carriage. Their parents were already waiting for them, their biological son and adopted daughter, from whom my teacher had kidnapped. She had a beautiful red scarf. Starting today, you'll enter the academy and undergo a short training course. It'll take about a year. If you complete it sooner, I'll personally become your mentor and teach you the rest of the time. Irwin patted me on the shoulder and walked ahead. Oh yes, you're the first one to enter the academy at 9, be proud. He turned his head over his shoulder. No one but me will know about your past. I've made arrangements with the police. You'll find the barracks yourself, be ready. Enrollment starts tomorrow. You're free to go. Yes. Tomorrow? Then I need to get some sleep. Good night, Captain. Irwin merely nodded his blond head in response. 20 cadets stood in 2 ragged lines on the sand. They had already been issued vests bearing the school's emblem, a sword cutting off the head of a hydra. You have had the honor of being admitted to the most elite school beyond the Shina Wall. Be proud. Each of you was recommended by a superior. In the future, you will replace them at your post. Not all of you, of course. The tall man walked between the future soldiers, his hands clasped behind his back. Only the 5 best will be granted this glory. He looked into each of their eyes, occasionally pausing, but soon continuing on. And I am here to give you this opportunity. I stood 10th from the right in the second row. I was almost invisible behind my tall classmates. For 9 years old, I was very tall, and still almost a whole head behind the 13-year-old cadets. My name is Byron Marigold. To you I am sir. My new mentor stopped next to a short boy and, looking up at him, asked his name. Samuel Wonder, sir. City on the southern side within Wall Rose, sir. Recommended by a lieutenant of the military police. His voice was thin and unpleasant, shouting too loudly. The Titan would eat him first, most likely out of pity. Someone like that belongs in the police force. My new instructor didn't bother to approach the next one. He simply looked at him. Richard Proud, sir. Sam Winter. Names were called out, but I didn't remember them. I didn't need to. Each cadet, stepping forward, imitated the first student. I think his name was Sommel. It was my turn. What's your name, little and brave future soldier? He laughed, disbelieving, like everyone else. He, too, would pay for this. I have no reason to show him much. The captain will judge my results. Naruto, sir. No place to live. He was recommended by the captain of the reconnaissance squad. You could show him some courtesy. I stood straight, looking him in the eye, but allowed myself some freedom, relaxed shoulders, slightly closed eyes. He'd notice and appreciate it. You're taking a lot of liberties, cadet. The teacher emphasized the last word, emphasizing my insignificance. But I'll forgive you for this liberty. However, don't think I'll forget. I just lowered my head, looking at the floor, expressing my apologies, but did not change my position. Tomorrow is your first training session. 20 cadets will be selected, and 15 will remain. The teacher looked at the sky. We weren't his concern. His job was to keep us alive. I'll expect you in this clearing at 5 in the morning. You know the location of the barracks. Lights out. Heat. Small wooden houses for 5 people surrounded the building of the common dining room, which was also wooden and quite old. I didn't peek into other people's houses, and who would let me? Here, as everywhere, personal space is highly valued, but I can't blame them. It's good when there are no valuables. The only thing I treasure is my katana, a gift from my teacher, but it was confiscated by the captain. Our cabin had 3 bunk beds. It seemed I was the first to arrive, which was lucky. I couldn't afford to waste precious time. Next year I'd have to save time by skipping the half-hour allotted for eating in the morning and evening. I figured a few minutes would be enough to cram down as much of the food they give me in the dining hall. Eating during the day was forbidden. It might interfere with training. I wondered if they were afraid of vomit-stained floors or genuinely worried about our health. More likely the former. Having chosen a bed in the corner, I took off my school uniform, which was almost entirely white except for my leather boots, which was very stupid, considering what we would be doing here for the next year. I hung it on a chair next to the bed and placed the boots underneath it. Wearing gray cotton shorts, which served as my underwear, I climbed the wooden ladder to the second tier of the bed. The bed by the window was more illuminated, and its ladder was metal and didn't creak at the slightest touch, and it seemed the bottom bunk had a duvet cover. My bed, however, was in the shadows, had no duvet cover, and had a hard mattress, which, however, was much softer than the one in prison. My first teacher had told me that if I wanted to live, I had to learn to be inconspicuous, not to attract attention to myself. An uninviting environment, one that hardly anyone would want to approach, would help me with this. If I'd had more luck on my birthday, maybe I could have lived happily, or rather, I could have lived. But I'm happy with my life now. All that remains is to earn respect, and I can do that. I must devote all the time I have until morning to identifying and perhaps developing the remaining chakra in my body, which has transferred into this body along with my soul, or rather, into my body. Although I hope to get some more sleep, I'm still hoping for a little more. My war experience and the fox energy within me will help minimize my sleep time. The only question left is nutrition. There won't be any decent food here. Rich children are accustomed to fatty meals, while my diet consists of boiled fish and rice, anything that will help maintain my body in good shape. I don't think such foods will be found in the cafeteria. However, first I need to test my body's response to long meditations, and with luck, I'll only have to sleep for 2 or 3 hours at most, although that will be difficult. All that remains is to try hard tomorrow and make the right first impression. Gradually, other cadets began arriving at my cabin. The first one entered about 20 minutes after I settled into my bed. He seemed to have introduced himself as the third and stood, accordingly, third from the left in the front row. He took the very same bed with the duvet cover by the window, sitting on the first level of the bed. Sam prepared to greet our neighbors. They didn't notice me. "Hello. My name is Sam. And you? Where are you from?" How annoying. It's good these questions aren't directed at me. Another undergrad has joined us. "Where are you going after graduation?" What arrogance. "Hello, my name is Jared. I live just north of the center, within the walls of the Sheena. After graduation, I'll be a military police captain, like my father." He emphasized his noble origins, though he reminds me of someone. I can't quite place it. And his voice is unpleasant, always breaking and taking shape. I wonder how much longer I have to live with him. "Nice to meet you." Sam jumped out of bed and shook Jared's hand too briskly, as if not noticing that Jared hadn't raised his hand. They didn't pay attention to me again. I'm not interested in their further conversation, so it's time for meditation. I wonder if I still have inner peace. But that's for later. The shadow fell at the perfect angle, completely covering me. I hope they won't notice me in the future. Inhale, exhale. Relax. They're gone. It looks like another one has joined them. Such a large boy, almost 180 kilos, while he's 160 centimeters tall. This world has a strange system of measurement. Don't get distracted. There's no one there. Inhale, exhale. Blood flows through my veins, smoothly distributing oxygen throughout my body. My brain is functioning normally. If I had real blood, everything would be so, but this bright red substance, too thick for ideal, can only be called that with great doubt. I need to see a specialist. Inhale, exhale. The constantly overstrained brain gradually relaxes. Thoughts become jumbled. They are non-existent. Will this drive me crazy? I can already feel it, a mass saturated with chakra to the limit. It's too thick, and all the fault lies in this body's inability to release the energy that, over time, accumulates in the body. This is not good. I need a way, any way, to get it out. The option of massive blood loss, in which regeneration will quickly restore it, but will not pump up the chakra, was accepted without further reflection or reassessment. It can't get any worse. Who is best at releasing blood? That's right, Titans. I hadn't made a mistake in choosing my future profession. Another cadet arrived. The problem had been identified, a solution found. Inhale, exhale. High blood density will help speed up regeneration, as bleeding from the wound will be minimal. I transitioned from a meditative state to a sleepy state, albeit brief. I was awakened by my new commander, Byron, aka Sir Marige. He kicked the door open so hard it slammed against the wall and entered our little house. He woke us with a scream that shook the windows and creaked the beds beneath the 3 cadets who had leaped up. I had long since gotten used to this kind of awakening, so I simply opened my eyes. From where I was, on the bed, I had a good view of the entire small room, my 4 comrades, and the commander. Where the hell is the 5th one? Looks like these 4 are about to get into trouble with the evil commander. Search all the beds. Carry out. I slept alone in my bed, so it was the only one the cadets had to check. I couldn't see what they were doing, but judging by the sound, they'd ripped apart the mattress on the bottom bunk. They should have crushed Titans like that. It's a shame about the mattress. I wanted to put it under mine for a softer sleep. The wooden stairs seem unable to support the weight of a corpulent teenager. And why is he looking at me? He's not moving. Is he okay? Anyway, maybe I should throw him down before it's too late. But what? He'll do it himself. Don't look. Don't look. Don't look. I found him. I remember him. He looks so small. Who bares their neck like that in front of strangers? What if I want to bite you? Hey kid, don't be afraid. We won't hurt you. Is he an idiot? He's shaking all over. Is he okay? He's not talking to me anymore. He's talking to the commander. You're sticking your fat neck out again. How did they even accept you into the academy? Get down and let him come down, fatso. How rude you are, Commander. After waiting for the fat guy to give me the ladder, I reached out to the rungs, and my hands were shaking. They were shaking violently, and I was barely able to keep from strangling my new roommate. I'm fine, I said, getting down so quickly. And how the chubby one shuddered when I looked at him. I want more. I want to see the fear in his eyes. It doesn't matter if you can't get out of bed on time on the first day. You're not worth the effort. Is the commander tired of standing with such a stern expression yet? It seems like it never changes. I wonder if his jaw ever tightens. In 5 minutes, you must be at the site where the initiation took place yesterday. Everyone, he emphasized the word, glancing sideways at me, dressed and ready. No one will wait for latecomers. And on this joyful note, the commander left my house, slamming the door. Brushing my teeth, or even just washing my face with cold water, turned out to be a problem. A major one, since the house had nothing but beds and 6 chairs, 1 per bed. Absolutely nothing. Of course, I'm no stranger to going without personal hygiene products, but my sissy neighbors were ready to throw a tantrum. A screaming guy looked scary, and with 4 of them. What a team I've been given. I've heard plenty of swear words in this world. You'll pick up worse in prison, and my past experiences helped me find the words to describe all my emotions. Killing them isn't enough. Naturally, I didn't voice my thoughts or even participate in any conversation with the neighbors. However, if Sasuke saw me now, he'd definitely praise my restraint. No, Sasuke never praised anyone. It was Sensei. Sensei, however, would definitely scold me for forgetting about him and everyone else. I wish I could feel anything right now besides irritation at my idiot neighbors. Anything at all. I need to get dressed. I'm not going to rush them or help them in any way. The sooner they get rid of them, the sooner this house will be all mine. I easily hid 3 knives in my knee-high boots, 2 in the right and 1 in the left. It's convenient, of course, and there's always somewhere to stash them. But my feet are unaccustomed to boots. I'll get rid of them later. I'm unwashed, angry, and I probably smell worse than a boar. I wonder if there are animals in this world I don't know about. I forgot my question as soon as I stepped out into the fresh air. Well, not exactly fresh. That's what it was before humans got here. Now it's filled with the fetid breath of the cadets, even though it's open. The bastards have inhaled it. If I haven't been deprived of longevity in this world, I hope I'll live to see their horrific and painful deaths. With a profession like mine, it won't even take a few years. Unfortunately, High Command has forbidden us to evaluate you, rookies, the same way as the other cadets. They're privates, but you'll be rewarded with new sergeant's shoulder straps after graduation. Not everyone, of course, but you'll only be weeded out after 2 weeks of training. Rest assured, I'll make sure that time is hell for you. Understood? Sir, yes, sir. The commander only winced at the discordant chorus of voices. Get to work, greenhorns. Our hair was shaved. Everyone, without exception. Now my main entertainment was stroking a few millimeters of hair. In this world, that's a very ridiculous unit of measurement. It's hard to even measure 1 millimeter with your fingers. My hands are shaking. There are also centimeters, meters, and kilometers. I haven't heard of other lengths yet. Perhaps the people here have come up with even more. Our first task was to learn proper balance, complete body control, self-improvement. My overweight neighbor wobbled comically on the long bench. Even by the end of the first week, he still couldn't walk across it. Byron Marge decided not to waste his time on him. Stephen Cord, a neighbor whose name I never learned, left our small house at the end of the first week. A crumpled piece of paper with a recommendation, scrawled in the captain's handwriting, read, "Too fat even for police work, expelled without completing 2 weeks of preliminary training." I didn't want to take his mattress. It smelled of sweat and tears. After 2 weeks of continuous training, 19 cadets were running through the first level obstacle course. I didn't want to stand out too much, but I learned to control my body even before I stole the first painted handkerchief of a church fanatic. Our next task was to learn how to operate the spatial maneuvering device, a very interesting thing, in my opinion, but running with chakra is still more convenient. Our entire group was led to the sandy ravine where the greeting had taken place. There were already strange structures there, more like gallows with 2 pillars as legs and a crossbar on them. But instead of a noose, cables were attached to both legs, tying straps, and the spatial maneuvering device itself. I know this because we had an introductory lesson on the history of walls and their defenses. You must hang on these ropes for as long as you can. The commander pointed at the gallows. Your future teacher and I will judge whether you pass this test or not. A vestibular and balance test is understandable, because in a real-life situation, this very device will help me survive, no matter how pathetic it sounds coming from the Hokage and the commander of the United Army of Assassins. It's disgusting, but it's necessary. There were 5 gallows in total, and the guys approached one after another. Some held on for quite a while. Others couldn't even hold on for a minute, as the soldiers tightened the cables and their feet left the ground. The first gallows was cleared for me. The guy before me had lasted about 15 minutes, which wasn't very long, but better than some. I approached it, and 2 assistants fastened the straps on my legs and torso. They also turned 2 levers, each raising its own cable and straps, and my feet left the ground. If I had enough chakra, I could have compacted it under the soles of my boots and stood there without any problem, but I didn't have much. I was prepared for the fall, even taking some chakra from the accumulated puddle and compacting an invisible layer on my face and eyes. It was easier to spend a little chakra now than to suffer later with dust and dirt that would inevitably get into my eyes. But all of this turned out to be unnecessary. I felt almost as confident on the cables as I did on the ground. The psychological pressure of my past must be taking its toll, since I couldn't imagine life without floating freely in the air, and fortunately, my innate affinity with the element of air allowed me to do so. I hung in the air, dangling above the ground by some paltry straps, and felt no insecurity. I was comfortable. When the straps began to cut painfully into my skin, I poured all my chakra, dispersed in a thin layer across my body, beneath them. There wouldn't even be a trace of redness left on my dark skin. I needed to become the best of all these fools, because then I could choose where to go next. They'd give me an apartment wherever I wanted, but of course, within the rose wall. After all, I'm not the son of rich parents. Time flowed infinitely slowly in zero gravity, which only helped me savor every second spent in a familiar environment. I wasn't limited by time. When the chakra flow became completely shaky, I pulled the cables myself, and they lowered me to the ground. Couldn't resist, cadet? Some young officer allowed himself to make a sarcastic remark. I compressed the tiny remnants of my chakra into a ball on the tip of my index finger, and it instantly flew, like an imperceptible grain of sand, to the arrogant, insolent officer's leg, hidden by the thin white fabric of his uniform pants. The chakra, pressed against the leg, immediately burned through the pant leg, no doubt painfully. He cried out and clutched his injured limb. The scorched edges of the hole in his pants were still melting, and the officer would surely be ridiculed. I passed his group as quickly as possible. I certainly didn't need any trouble, especially now that I had the opportunity to prove myself in something new. After this first training session, all the cadets would be taken to the medic's tent, which was located behind our cabins and the mess hall. I had no business there, so I headed straight to my own. Before dinner, I'd have time to accumulate some chakra and circulate it through my system. After dinner, a list will be posted on the wall of the dining room, overlooking the training grounds. The list for which, for the past 2 weeks, first 20, then 19 cadets have been sweating and bleeding under the tyrannical command. There will be 15 names on this list, and mine must be first. The year was 844.